During a recent YouTube Live, which I do every Monday on your YouTube channel at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us for it, one of our viewers had an idea to share in this week's podcast the funniest moments, cruise fails, and my cruise secrets all in one. So you know what? I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing this, and a lot of these come at my own expense, so I don't know if I've shared all these stories before, but here they are all into one. And I think I'm going to start with a story I've told many times, but it's still funny to me, even though it's embarrassing. Right when I kind of started, again, a lot of these stories are more when I started the blog than they are recent, but this one was definitely early on. And I was walking down the Royal Promenade on some ship, I don't know. And as I was walking, you ever notice like when you're walking and someone's walking towards you, you can tell that they're walking to you, like they're gonna say something to you as opposed to just walking by. And I thought to myself, oh, this person is going, it clearly has recognized me, Matt, RealCaribbeanBlog.com. Here it goes. And he came right up to me, and I was excited for it. And he goes, "Sir, your fly is open." I went from sheer excitement to sheer embarrassment. It was just like, you went from one extreme to another. And I was just, I thought I was on top of the world, and I went to extremely embarrassed. So that was that one. Another similar example, somewhat, was again kind of early in the blog's history. My wife and I were eating at a specialty restaurant. I believe it was either Giovanni's or Chops, because back then that's like the only choices we had. And we had a great meal. And at the end of the meal, they bring you the check, right? And I got the receipt, and it said $0.00. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my God. And my wife was like, what? And I'm like, we got comped. Like, clearly they know who I am. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the bill is zero. Like, clearly that's the case. Like, we made it. We're getting comped meals here. Like, all right. And I signed it, tipped the guy a little bit extra because, you know, hey, I'm gonna get a free meal. I'm gonna give the waiter something. Close it up. And then as I'm feeling really happy with myself, my wife says to me, she goes, wait a minute, didn't you pre-purchase this meal before the cruise on the cruise planner? And she was right. Once again, Matt is not as great as he thought he was. So there you have it. All right, I have a more recent story. This was either on Wonder or Utopia of the Seas, somewhere along the lines of like when the ship first launched, so in the last couple of years. And I was in a balcony room, and I went to go use my shower, and it didn't work. I tried. Now I'm trying to remember, did it either the shower didn't turn on, or there wasn't hot water, or I couldn't get water to come out of the shower, something along those lines. I don't remember exactly, but something was not working. And so I call maintenance, and they say, no problem, we'll send someone up there. So the maintenance gentleman arrives, and he has I'm not going to do it justice, but he's a thick Eastern European accent. But he does recognize me and goes, oh, you do those blogs, right? Terrible accent, I apologize. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. He goes, oh, yeah, they're very good. And, you know, we had a little conversation, and I'm explaining the problem. Like, listen, yeah, the water's not working in the shower. And he steps in, looks at it, literally turns one thing, like a switch of some kind, and the water works. And he looks at me and he goes, don't quit your day job. Like, don't quit your job blogging, because clearly a career in anything else is not for you. And there you go. And I think I have one more. This is a cruise fail and a funniest moment in the same regard. This was on the I'm 99% sure this was on. No, I was gonna say, I thought it was the Adventure of the Seas. It wasn't the Adventure of the Seas Restart. It was on Mariner of the Seas. It was I think we were doing, back then Mariner was doing like 3 and 4s or short cruises we were doing a back to back. And we were on the cruise, and we were there with my good friend Michael Poole. And let's just say we had a lot to drink that evening. We had a good time. We were in the pub, and we were going to Nassau, Bahamas. Now this is back, like, I think this is before 2020. I think this is like 2018, 2017. And you know, at the time, the best thing to do in Nassau was the Baja Mar. I think it either just opened or we discovered it. I don't know. But the Baja Mar is it's a premier resort. They have a giant casino. They have a giant water park as well. And it got in our heads somehow, we want to go to the Baja Mar tomorrow, like the next day, because we were on a sea day, and we were going to book it to go there. Now, here's the thing. The day pass is pretty pricey to go there. But there was, I think at the time, I don't think this exists anymore, there was this hack where if you booked like a neighboring resort that was cheaper than the Baja Mar resort, it included admission for everybody to go in there and enjoy the facilities. And the hack was you could get up to like 4 people. So if we booked this one night room, we weren't ever going to use the room, but we'd get access to the resort. It'd be great for us and the kids. And it seemed like a great idea. Now, again, you have to remember, it was late at night and we had a few drinks. And I had the Expedia app up, which was a mistake in and of itself. And I was looking at it and I was like, this is great. This is the exact, this is going to work out perfectly. So, in a moment of inspiration, I said, you know what? We're going to do it. And I went and booked the hotel immediately in the app, wait a few seconds, confirmation, you are good to go. Great. And then, and the confirmation, you ever like have a few drinks and then you have a moment of clarity in which you actually like your mind like clears a little bit and you're able to focus just a little bit more extra. And I reread the resort and I didn't book the resort I thought I had booked. I booked like a different neighboring resort that didn't qualify for it and instantly regretted it and realized this wasn't going to work. So I was like, okay, well, well, I booked the wrong resort. Fine. I just booked it 10 seconds ago. I'm going to, do the online chat with Expedia, understanding, of course, technically there's no refunds, but, surely there must be an option here if you make an oopsie within, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour of booking it, they'll just, give you a do-over. Well, they didn't. I spent a lot of time fighting with them, chatting, getting on the phone, calling them, and they were like, listen, we're a third party. We just booked the stuff. The rules are it's non-refundable, non-cancelable, and you're within the cancellation window. So sorry, Charlie. And so I paid for a resort we never went to, never used, because it was not a great resort. I mean, I really did think about that day going there just to do something at the resort. I seem to recall the weather would actually end up being pretty bad. And it was just like, we never actually went. And so when I talk about, oftentimes, when we're talking about things that I'll book and I've said I've wasted money on dumber things. This is probably one of those dumber things because it was not cheap, but it was not what I thought it was going to be and didn't qualify for the Baja Mar access I thought I was going to get. And so, yeah, that's both a funniest moment and a cruise fail in and of itself. Another cruise fail was when we went to St. Thomas one time. I was determined to go to St. John on my own. And we got off the ship. And if you're going on your own, you need to take a taxi because in order to get to St. John, you need to pick up a ferry. And there's a ferry at Red Hook, which is an area of St. Thomas. Basically, it's the easternmost part of the island, and it's the closest to St. John. If you hop on the ferry there, it's like 30 minutes maybe, not even, and really easy. So my plan was simple. Hop in a taxi, go to Red Hook, and go. Here's the problem. In St. Thomas, taxis are not like taxis elsewhere around the world where like, oh, you'd like a taxi? Here's your private vehicle. Instead, what it is they have these safari cars, as they call them, which are basically pickup trucks with benches installed in the bed. And the idea is they try to load as many people as possible on there to maximize their revenue and drop you off. Now, of course, 99% of the people looking for a taxi are going to traditional tourist places like, Megan's Bay or Emerald Beach or wherever. Us wanting to go to Red Hook, they were like, no, because if they went to Red Hook, it would require them to basically run the truck just for us, nobody else, because no one else wants to go there. At first, they handed us off to a bunch of different, like, oh, go talk to that guy. And that guy was like, no, go talk to that guy. And that guy was like, go talk to that guy. So now I'm getting upset because now I'm like, all right, clearly nobody wants to take us. And they're just trying to find what sucker is going to, feel sorry for us. And nobody did. Then the last thing was one of either a driver or the taxi dispatcher was like, listen, go in that truck and they'll take you. So I'm like, really? Get in the truck. And there's like, I don't know, 8 or 10 people. And we get in the truck and I'm like, where are you guys going? To the passengers. And they're like, we're going to this beach. We're going to that beach. We're going to this beach. And I'm like, okay, clearly we're going to be the last stop. They're going to drop everybody else off and whoever the driver is. And then we'll, take pity on us. Never mind the fact, by the way, when you're doing these in St. Thomas, you're paying full price. You don't get hey, you're the third stop discount or anything like that. You pay the full price. I was just clearly they were just they didn't want to drive us there. They couldn't be bothered, so we were getting put in fourth class here the bigger problem besides my ego being bruised was that it was now going to take a long time because the time to get around St. Thomas and get to Red Hook, by the time we get dropped off, it'd be like an hour or so before we would actually be dropped off. And as you know, port times are tight. I want to go to St. John. Plus, there's another half an hour easily just the ride over on the ferry. Plus, we have to wait for the ferry, right? Because the ferry doesn't run continuously; it runs every hour or so. And I told my wife, I'm like, there's no way this is going to work. And I was about as angry as I've ever been on a cruise, not angry at my kids. Like, I was just really upset. And I was like, so on principle, we got out of the truck and I was like, you can take this truck and drive it somewhere else. That's probably not the words I used. And then I was really irate. And my wife could see it. And to her credit, she kept her cool. And she's like, listen, we're not going to go. It's fine. And I was upset. I really wanted to go. She's like, let's just go to the bar over here and grab a drink. And so we go to this bar, which of course, in the port is, I don't know, $20 for a beer. But you know what? We had a drink. We had a second drink. And then it really did just, I recovered from it. And it was a good, actually, it's a story I tell a lot as an experience. Like, this is why you need to be flexible on vacation. Sometimes things don't go the way you want it. Now, I also learned another lesson, which is if I want to go to St. John, I just book a Royal Caribbean shore excursion. It makes it so much simpler. There's that as well. And so that's definitely a cruise fail, but also a lesson learned. My last cruise fail, I've done now twice. And I have no excuse. I think this is just on me. 2 times now, I have gone on a cruise ship and realized I did not pack pants. The first time was when I was going to Star of the Seas for one of those preview sailings that Royal Caribbean invited me to. I had to fly to Puerto Rico to board the ship and pick it up there. And I think about halfway to the airport, I realized, when I pack, listen, I cruise a lot, and I think of myself as pretty good at it. I have a pretty good sense of what I need. And as a typical guy, did I use a packing list like I probably was supposed to? No, I just went off the top of my head. I was like, okay, do I have this? I have this. Well, I didn't pack pants. I packed shorts. But I didn't pack like something to wear in the evening. I packed a nice shirt, but not the pants that went with it. And I realized it. So it was too late now. I mean, if I went back to the house to get it, then turn around, I would have been late for my flight, and all that. So it's like, fine. The good news is I was flying in a day ahead of time. That's always a good thing. So I figured, all right, I will go in Puerto Rico to buy one in San Juan. But yes, did I buy pants? Yes, I ended up going to Walmart and buying it. But of course, the Walmart was, 15 minutes away by taxi, by Uber ride. Plus, I had to pay for the Uber to go from the resort to Walmart and then Walmart back. And I picked up, decent Levi's, but it was a costly mistake. The second time, this was more recent. I forget which sailing. It was a recent sailing, again, a solo one without my wife, in which I, once again, I think I just didn't pack enough pants, or I don't know what I was thinking. The Puerto Rico one on Star, I just didn't pack. It just completely messed this up. This one was more like, I think I packed one pair, but not enough. Or once again, in that situation, I actually ended up booking. I had a pair of pants, so I wore that. And then when we were in port, I bought another pair at one of the stores because I think we were in port the next day and it worked out. Anyway, the lesson learned here, and not only is this a cruise fail, but you should always use a packing list, no matter how much your ego hurts by using it, how much you think you should use it. There you go. All right, my cruise secrets. I'm willing to share 2 secrets. And I'm hoping that you all listening to this podcast will keep it amongst ourselves. This will not end up on a Reddit thread or anything like this. We'll just keep it amongst ourselves. Number 1, Port Canaveral. I hesitate to share this one, but I'm going to share it. My parking secret at Port Canaveral. Only works at Port Canaveral and nowhere else. Usually everybody goes to parks in the parking garage, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with parking garage. But I've discovered that the surface lot, if you're facing the parking garage, it's to the left. It's to the left of the cruise terminal as well. There's a surface lot. And the surface lot is better because if you park on the surface lot, you can basically park your car and you walk right over to the terminal. There's no elevators to wait for going up or going down. It is, in my opinion, and there's no traffic coming out of the garage the morning of the cruise. That way it works. I just think the surface lot works. It's easier in, easier out, faster, etc. It's same cost, by the way. I mean, yes, your car is not protected from like rain, but like whatever. Your car's gonna get dirty no matter what, if you park in your garage or not. Anyway, that's my secret there. I'm also reminded of a parking incident, a cruise fail, I guess. When I parked at Terminal 5. So Terminal 1 is where most people go out of on a Royal Caribbean cruise in Port Canaveral. Terminal 5 is located, it's their old terminal. It's all the way in the back. That's the best way I can describe it. but it's a shared terminal and they have a parking garage. This may have changed now, but at the time, the parking garage, you paid to park after the cruise, not before, which is insane. I waited, no joke, I'm not exaggerating here, 2 hours. Like not 45 minutes, and I'm exaggerating, like literally 120 minutes to exit because the traffic was so backed up. Basically, everybody was leaving the cruise ship, and then there was a line to pay for parking. But as more and more people got into their cars, they would try to merge into the line, and the line just got backed up and backed up, backed up, backed up, backed up, to the point where it literally took 2 hours. I mean, there was actually a yelling fight in the garage, and at one point, I mean, people got not into fisticuffs, but it became real, and I was like, okay, I'm rolling up my window now. Like, I mean, it was brutal. Luckily, I think they changed that parking garage to pay when you enter instead of when you leave. But that was another cruise fail I just thought about. My other cruise secret relates to when you get on a cruise ship after a shore excursion. This works primarily on Royal Caribbean, not oldest ships, but ones that like the Voyager and the Freedom class, especially. Doesn't work on Icon. It might work on Oasis. Basically, how do I describe? This is a hard one to describe orally, but you have to go with me on this one. When you come back on the ship from a shore excursion, you have to go to the elevator bank, right? Here's the thing. On like Voyager and Freedom class ships especially, there are 2 elevator banks within one area. Like when you get to the elevator, there is like one set, then there's like a hall in the middle and another set of elevators on the other side. Most people, 98% of the people, will walk right in to the first set of the elevators. And meanwhile, the second set goes completely unseen because on deck 2, if you remember, there's even though there's glass for the elevators, you can't see the other elevator bank because there's like a physical structure in between. When you get on a higher deck, when you're on the Royal Promenade, you can see both elevator banks from each other, but not on deck 2. So people are unaware there's another elevator bank on the other side. And if you walk there, you have to just walk around it basically. But you have to know it's there. Boom, you usually get an elevator without a wait. So there are my 2 secrets. If I see this on Reddit or something, we're not friends anymore. But there you go. There's my funniest moments, cruise fails, and cruise secrets. All right, friends, time for listener emails. It's the part of the episode where I answer emails you've sent me. First emails from Kobe. Hi, Matt, longtime listener to the podcast, huge fan of everything you do. I wanted to write to you about an experience we had when we cheated on Royal Caribbean and regretted it big time. My family and I are lifelong Royal Caribbean cruisers. We've never ventured elsewhere, but having a 5-year-old daughter, we decided to try a Disney Cruise Line to see what all the hype was about. I'm not here to bash other cruise lines, and I know you aren't either, but our decision to venture away from Royal Caribbean was regrettable to say the least. Starting with the pre-cruise planning. On Royal Caribbean, we have become accustomed to pre-purchasing everything, drink packages, shore excursions, internet packages, and spa services, as well as reserving our shows and dining times ahead of time so that once we step on board, we have a worry-free vacation. On Disney, you can't pre-purchase anything. This makes it difficult to efficiently budget and plan for a cruise that you've already paid almost double for the cruise fare alone compared to Royal Caribbean. Unfortunately, embarkation day didn't get any better. We have been spoiled with Royal Caribbean, who has perfected the check-in process in recent years. Our last cruise was on Utopia. We made it from curbside drop-off to onboard in no more than 10 minutes. DCL, totally different story. While they allow you to check in ahead of time, the app is very glitchy and confusing. Even if you do check in ahead of time, they enforce very strict port arrival times. If you show up before your allotted time, you are forced to wait outside in the sun until your time is called. Once inside the port, the check-in process is long and tedious. From port arrival, it took us every bit of 2 hours before we finally boarded the ship. Once you're on board, the fun isn't over yet, quote unquote. There's no luxury of watching the safety video on the app and checking into the muster station at your convenience like Royal. Disney does it the old school way. When the emergency signal sounds, everyone is required to walk down to your assigned muster station at the same time and remain there until every single cabin in your group has arrived. It's the simple changes for convenience that have made us really appreciate Royal Caribbean every time. In all fairness, the crew members on DCL were amazing, just like Royal. The shows were great. Kids Club is exceptional, and they did provide some of that Disney magic. But my wife and I kept saying to each other each time we really missed Royal Caribbean. In my personal opinion, Adventure Ocean and the kids' activities that Royal provides are just as good. Obviously, they don't have the Disney IP, but our daughter always had just as good time in Adventure Ocean. Private Island comparison, there's no comparison. While Castaway Cay is very nice, it cannot come close to the offerings of Coco Cay. To be fair, though, I don't think any other cruise line's private island can compare to Coco Key. I argue this all not to trash another line, but to explain that there is no way to justify paying 2 and sometimes 3 times the price of Royal Caribbean. Kobe, I'm going to give you a golf clap. Like, I mean, you encapsulated exactly something. I mean, you say I'm not here to trash Disney. I'm not here to trash Disney, but I'm here to say that they are totally overrated, totally priced, and the experience is not that much better. I mean, you nailed exactly the major tenets that are the problem there. Disney isn't bad. I don't think Kobe is saying Disney's bad at all. I mean, some things actually they're bad with the check-in and the mustard process, but it's just that their process, they're, even if you get past all that, you say, great, you know what, skip embarkation day, let's just compare cruise to cruise. They're so similar in many ways. I mean, Royal does things better in other ways, like Coco Key. But why are we paying 2 to 3 times for it simply for the IP? And you exactly encapsulated that one. I could not agree more with you on that. And you know what? People get angry at me. You know, there are 2 things usually people point out between Disney, actually 3 things between Disney and Royal Caribbean. One, they claim that Disney doesn't nickel and dime as much as Royal Caribbean does, which is a flat out lie. Disney absolutely, they include nothing different than Royal Caribbean except for one thing, and that's a soda, right? That was number 2 also. The soda is included, but only, you know, in certain places. Anyway, okay, fine, you get free soda. You ain't gonna drink enough soda to make up for the cost in the cruise fare. The other thing is, of course, the Disney magic. And listen, I as a former recovering Disney fan, I understand that perspective. But listen to Kobe here. Don't listen to me, just listen to Kobe. It's just, you're better off on Royal Caribbean, even in the kids club there. So, well said. Next email is from our longtime listener, Adam. Hey, Matt, we are newer Crown and Anchor members, currently Platinum. Since the announcement of the Points merger with Celebrity, my family wanted to try one of their ships for fun. We're booked on Celebrity Reflection in December out of Fort Lauderdale to Key West and Grand Bahama. Upon review, and other opinions online, the Freeport port seems to be underwhelming to say the least. The actual port itself seems scarce and a little sketchy, while excursions also seem to lack. We did, however, book a beach and shopping tour at Port Lucaya, as that seemed to be really the only thing to do. However, that seems to look like a lackluster as well. We have a 5-year-old daughter who we plan on leaving at the kids club on the ship when we go on an excursion. Big question, your opinion, is it even worth getting off the ship at that port? I hate to say it, but probably not. Last time I was at Freeport was in 2021. Fine. And I went to the Grand Lucayan Resort. To be fair, yes, there's not much going on over there. Freeport is, I don't want to dump on anybody. You know, every port is different, but there's not a whole lot going on there. In my opinion, you're better off staying on the ship in Freeport. It's just, yeah, I'd rather take the money you're going to spend there, do something much more interesting in Key West, and just stay on board the ship. So, if you want my opinion, and you asked me, I say stay on board the ship and skip Freeport. There just isn't anything else going on there. If you wanted to, the only thing I would recommend otherwise is, don't do that excursion, is to, one of my favorite hacks for any cruise port in the Caribbean, see if you can get like on a catamaran or a boat ride of some kind, like a charter. That might be a really good option. It's not going to be cheap, but that's another way around it. Next, we have an email from Jenny from Kansas City. My family is sailing on Allure in February of 2027. We're traveling with 2 other families. We have 6 adults, 5 kids. Can I book 1 cabana and a Coco Key for all of us, or will we have to book 2 of them? Thanks, Matt. Love your podcast. So, as you know, the cabanas have a capacity, and I believe, depending on which cabana you're talking about, it's either 6 or 8 people. I think it's closer to 8, quite frankly. So you have, by my count, 11. So the question is, what do you have to do? Technically speaking, the answer is you need to book 2 cabanas. Now, you didn't mention where. If you have a cabana at South Beach, Chill Beach, or Oasis Lagoon, these are public areas. Generally, what you can't do is have 11 of you all roll into the cabana and hang out and overwhelm it. Like, Royal Caribbean kind of, like, unofficially, it's not a policy, but in my experience, if the cabana capacity is 8 and you have, like, 9, maybe 10, that might look the other way. But you're at 11, and the other question, you have 5 kids. Now, again, if you have, like, 2 infants, here's what I would do. I might tip your cabana tent when you first get there, and then don't show up with 11 people. Show up with your 8 or whatever, and then have some folks kind of come in a little bit later, but really what you want to avoid is all 11 of you there at one time. Like, if you have, some of you, and this may happen if you're in a public area like South Beach or Oasis Lagoon, you're going to go to the cabana and then immediately go out to the pool, right? And the difference is, periodically one of, 3 or 4 of you are back at the cabana at any given time. You could do that. The problem is when you show up with 11 people there, it's a gray area at best. Officially, you need to get 2 cabanas. Now, obviously, if you're in a cabana, this still applies to other cabanas like in Cocoa Beach Club or Hideaway Beach. The difference is you'd have to buy separate admission for the people who aren't included in your cabana. Generally speaking, the cabana attendants don't mind visitors. It's just like if you're flagrantly breaking the rules of capacity, they could say something to you and you'd be out of the cabana there. So that's the biggest issue with that particular plan. Next, we have a question from Troy from Dallas, Texas. Hey, good afternoon, Matt. Love the content you produce. I've been listening for years as various cruises approach to ensure I'm up to date with all the helpful info. I have 2 questions for you. First, with Alaska cruises, I have heard that you should do the land portion before taking the cruise south. My question is, are you able to book just the cruise leg of that trip? My same family is looking for an Alaska cruise with various family units to take more or less time off and have greater or lesser mobility for hiking. Can this be mixed and matched between occupants of the same cabin, or does it need to be strategic for cruise tour and non-cruise tour attendees? That's a good question. I believe you can book either the cruise or you can book the cruise and land, right? But the thing is, you can't book on a cabin level. You can do this. So like if you're booking one cabin for you, Troy, and you have your family in another cabin. You want to do the land tour plus the cruise, they want to do just the cruise, that's not a problem. You can book them separately. But if it's more like you asked, it could be mixed and matched between occupants of the same cabin, I don't think so. I never tried it, but I don't think you can do it like, oh, okay, well, Troy and Mrs. Troy are in the same room, and Troy wants to do the cruise and land, and Mrs. Troy wants to do just the cruise. I don't think it works that way. I never tried it, never asked it. Congratulations, you've asked me a question I've never been asked before, but I don't think it works. I think on a cabin level, sure, but not on but not per person, if that makes sense. Second, there is a post on Reddit about using your beverage package to help offset the cost of a very expensive pour of Louis XIII cognac. Have you ever done this before? Any similar experience across the fleet? I'm hoping I can try this on my upcoming Mariners Zone. Yes. So when you have a drink package, it covers up to, $14 a drink now? So basically, if you order a drink that costs more, which Remy Martin Louis XIII definitely is, I think it's like $100 and some odd for the pour, it will drop it by like $15. You'll pay for the rest. So congratulations, you save like $15. But I mean, yes, technically it's a little bit of money saved. And this is true also of they just added in the mason jar a special kind of whiskey. And that also, same thing, any drink, any cocktail, if the drink is $20, you would knock off the 14 or 15, I forget it's 14 or 15, but it would knock off that amount and then you pay the difference. So there you go. And our last email today is coming to us from Chris from Idaho. Hi, Matt. Since becoming regular cruisers, my wife and I have found some cruise directories that we absolutely adore and others we felt did not add to our experience as much. But between booking our cruises when the itineraries get released and the frantic contracts cruise staff have, we have not been able to devise a system of booking that allows us to have any confidence in who our cruise director will be. Is this something you've given any thought to? And do you have any ideas how we can accomplish it? No, this is true of all crew members. Cruise directors, captains, the guy in the main dining room. They basically, the only way you can figure this out is if you talk to them, and their contracts are only about 4 or 6 months at a time. And beyond that, it's always a guessing game. So the only way to work it, Chris, is you have to book a last minute cruise. Basically, you have to figure out that such a person, this cruise director, is on this ship for a certain amount of time. Some cruise directors, like Mark Walker, will post, he has a Facebook page for himself, and he will, if you search for it, I think it's Cruise Director Mark Walker. He will post there periodically, I'll be on this ship from this time, this ship from this time, this ship. No, that's great. That's easy. But if your cruise director doesn't do that, which most don't, you're kind of at the mercy of either luck or you or somebody else tracking him down on a ship and asking him, hey, by the way, what's your schedule coming up? I mean, most of the time they'll tell you if they know it. Cruise directors have a little more leeway in that. Other crew members don't usually know their schedule quite that far in advance. So my only advice to you is you could probably, wait to book a cruise like 6 to 12 months in advance. And once you know the cruise director's schedule and go from there. But you would need to first find out which ship that person is on, get on that ship, or someone on that ship, go there, ask them, and then you be able to book a cruise based on that. So yeah, Royal Caribbean doesn't provide any, there's no official Royal Caribbean like, hey, this is where this, they don't do that. They don't provide any of that information ahead of time. It's really up to you. So I wish I had a better answer for you, Chris, but that's the truth right there. So, all right, friends, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. And thank you to our amazing YouTube chat for the suggestion for the topic for this week. And don't forget, you can always email me your questions, matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com, Matt, M-A-T-T, @royalcaribbeanblog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.